the Champagne Rugby Podcast, brother, coming to you live from the Export Beer Garden studio. Now brought to you by Maxraft, whose insulation materials are pre-cut in the factory to reduce time on site and are fully recyclable. If my insulation materials aren't recyclable, quite frankly, I don't want anything to do with them. I don't know about you, James McOnie.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, Maxraft are doing that, and they're doing it well. And we love having them on board, really.
We certainly do love having them on board, and we love a good old-fashioned, surprising round of Super Rugby. This is Super Rugby of old. Long gone are the days when New Zealand teams would thump every Australian team that came up. Crusaders losing to Fijian and Drua. We've got the Chiefs losing to the Reds. We've got the Hurricanes and the Blues having a battle for the ages. And the one shining light in the Trans-Tasman rivalry, it's the Highlanders, baby.
Yeah, the Highlanders were over in Sydney, and that was one of those games where you go, okay, the Tars, they were all right. But the Highlanders, Tony Lyall, just this absolute beast at second five. Was he playing centre for you? Second five.
Yeah, I think he was playing
centre.
He was out at centre on the weekend.
He was out at centre at the weekend. But people remember him. Previous incarnations of Talia was, well, he was called Danny in the early years. I know him because his family from Point, England, and the crowd goes, well, we did a story on him and his young cousins. They were in a very, very good team, a junior team. But anyway, he came through the grades of the Blues, played on the wing for a bit, played second five. He's gone down to the Landers and having a beast in midfield who's kind of good at everything.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
He's a physical freak as well. He scored that incredible try, caught it in one hand, and then still had the presence of mind to come down and just pump the absolute bejesus out of one dude, turn around, fend off another, and then also do a sort of Joe Rokocoko-esque leap into the air to score the try. And it was one of the most physically impressive things I've seen in a while.
It was a massive swan dive. I don't know why it's called a swan dive but anyway, it is. He was definitely a leaping, more like a leaping lizard, almost like
it was a leaping lizard,
flying squirrel.
Certainly not a swan. I mean, swans fly famously; they sit on the water. I've never seen a swan do a dive.
No, that's the thing. I was trying to think maybe when they land there might be something like that, but definitely a flying squirrel moment, like one of those Red Bull flying suits, and he came down. But the bump off was impressive. I love the way the Landers keep the ball alive. Folau Fakatava at the halfback. There was another try where Jacob Ratu Maitavuki Neepkins was just trailing inside where Fakatava was. He sort of found him. Oh, he was on his knees really and just sort of popped the ball up to someone. And I love that sort of perpetual motion. That's the good thing about New Zealand teams. When they put the razzle on, it's kind of like how people used to talk about France. Like, oh, it's so beautiful, the flair, the continuity.
And that particular try was impressive as well because Folau Fakatava sort of shat the bed. He slipped over and was like, oh no. And instead of just going, hey, let's calm it down and settle it up, he passed it up to JRK Rowling, as you mentioned, and he caught it, plenty of space, and then an inside ball. And I think, am I wrong, is it Reese the intern, the Welshman?
Well, it's your pasty guy from accounts, isn't it? Like, I mean, you've got Ben from accounts, so maybe he's from acquisitions or procurement. So you got your pasty Welsh guy trailing on the inside. He gets a try, and all of a sudden, the Landers just show that they can strike from anywhere. And I feel like they were the victim last year of teams that would do that to them. And now they're like, hey, we're taking that leaf, and now it's in our book. And
important to remember as well, the Waratahs, I know you were sort of disparaging of them first, but they beat the Crusaders just last week. So this is a team coming off a big W.
Was I disparaging?
Oh, I think you said they were shit house or something like this.
I must have, we'll have to rewind. Did I say, it does, what was that, Ian Smith who said that?
That they were shit house?
Yeah.
Oh, it was a shit house commentary?
Yeah, was that? I don't know. But Smithy may have sort of tarred the Tars with the wrong brush. Anyway, the thing is...
Tarred the Tars?
Yeah.
I think it's something else. Which we won't dwell on for too long.
What's that?
No, I thought you just said a different word. That might be the retards, if you will.
Oh, yeah, not that. Who's... G Lane, he sort of always decided that was the thing to call them for a long time. I think maybe the ACC, we've moved past that.
It made me very uncomfortable every time he would say it. Mainly because I thought, oh, God, I'm going to get cancelled here with something I haven't even said. Our voices do sound quite similar sometimes if you get us right in the right heat of the battle. And
that's the biggest issue with working for the ACC. When you're in the room when something cancelable is said. Usually, quite often, it's read out from a listener or a viewer.
Almost always.
It's like, oh, God.
I worry that I won't even be here and the whole thing will get cancelled down because of some horrific thing someone read out, and I will lose all future employee just based on something someone's text through to the text line on 3236. But hopefully it won't happen for a while. Give us a bit more time. And I mean, God, if it hasn't happened so far, it's probably never going to happen, right?
Yeah. Before we move on with rugby, I was just going to talk about cricket because that was, in terms of trans-Tasman rivalries, you can put your Tars versus your Landers and your Chiefs versus your Reds away because that was so crushingly disappointing yesterday.
Yeah, really.
It was the hope that at the start, I heard G-Lane copping a lot of abuse for going on Radio Hodaki basically saying it's a fait accompli, we're winning this. This is a great moment in New Zealand cricket. Stop what you're doing, cancel everything. Watch this game.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they were 5 wickets down at the start of the day's play and still needed hundreds of runs. And I mean, in the end, a couple of wickets from Ben Sears there for a moment, but they kind of got there in a canter, which is just incredibly disappointing. I think it's the hope that kills you. It's always the hope that kills you.
But it's also G-Lane. Like, I feel like G-Lane needs to take some responsibility here because he flew to Lords daring to believe that we could win that game. We know the game we're talking about, 2019.
Yep.
And then now he's on the radio pretty much saying, and even his out-of-office email was, New Zealand cricket is on the verge of a great day. Like, I got the bounce-back reply as if to say, you can, I'm not answering emails today because I'm celebrating.
Yeah.
That was his auto reply on his email.
It did have the huge vibe of a guy who was already getting on the lash to celebrate a victory that hadn't come, and it didn't come either. And I haven't been that low in a while. After that game, everyone, I was in here commentating in the Export Beer Garden studio, it was just a slow exodus of people wandering around. It reminded me of that scene in Saving Private Ryan when he sort of goes into like heartbeat mode and he's looking around and you see someone walking around, he picks his arm up off the beach and walks off. Everyone was just desolate and it was truly tragic. I sort of blocked it out of my mind, so I'm glad we've got back to that instantly in this rugby podcast.
Well, I think it's important because basically we dominate the rugby usually and they dominate the cricket, but I was so surprised at how much they dominate the cricket. When they said this could be, I think it's in G-Lane's email actually. Yeah. This will be the 9th time or something, or the...
They've only beaten them in a test at home one other time in my lifetime. So that shows how big that would have been. And this sort of does bring it back to rugby, because this might have been on the Agenda podcast yesterday, I'm not too sure, as being bandied about in here, was how many Bledisloe Cups would you give them for us to have had that win yesterday in the cricket? And I think about 5. I think you give them 5 back-to-back years of the Bledisloe to have that single win in just the series, drawing the series, not even winning the series.
Yeah, I'm happy to give up the Bledisloe because I'm more focused on Rugby World Cups now. I think it's pretty established that that's what it needs to be. I was just surprised it was so low, that number.
Yeah, so
because I mean, I know that they don't want to play us because we're not important enough anymore. But then I witnessed probably most of those when, like, I was around for the Hadley years and even for the Murphy Sewer years, as they, I think somebody was saying in Jerry's voiceover about this is a great moment, and that was a 1992 game. I think Martin Crowe was captain, Eden Park. So yeah, I do remember. I think I've witnessed probably most of those, and of course the most recent one was Hobart, the Dougie Bracewell Test. But I guess even though all the cricket tragics go, New Zealand cricket, we've bloody got it right when we got McCullum and we've turned a corner. It's like, well, the last captain who beat Australia, Ross Taylor.
Yeah, it's a long time ago, 2011. Yeah. I mean, that's Richie McCaw lifting the Rugby World Cup at Eden Park long ago. That is a very long time. And we're going to have to wait another 2 years before they even get another chance, and it's at the MCG on Boxing Day. And I mean, I don't want to be a no-hope Nigel, but it's at the MGC on Boxing Day. MCG. I've lost my mind. I've gone sad.
And speaking of GCs, we need to get Geordie Barrett over there for a redemption skull, because him getting kicked out by those dickhead security people, and also, you know how, like, it's straight after he gets kicked out, social media resumes with people sculling beers all over the place as if, check this out, what a great human, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you realise he was frog marched out of the stadium? It's just, Yeah, embarrassing, really. So I think he should be on a stage in the middle for that moment. And this is bringing it back to rugby.
Yes.
Because we can talk about Geordie's Canes. Geordie-less Canes. Well, let's talk about them right now.
Let's talk about them right now. I think the last thing to mention about the Highlanders before we do put a full stop on that is last-minute penalty to win the game. The Waratahs, they could have snatched it away from the Highlanders, and I think that would have been brutally unfair, and they missed it. And they didn't win. And every time that happens, I think that's a very funny way to win, when you win because someone else did something really bad. Because you go to celebrate and then you think, oh, maybe I won't celebrate here. I'll give it a little fist pump, but you can't get too exuberant when you only win because someone does their job badly.
Well, last kick of the game moments, I mean, Bernard Foley sort of won one with the last kick of the game, but I do remember last year the Chiefs Manawa versus Matatu. That was a missed penalty, and Matatu, fair play to them. They didn't hold back. They pretty much charged and went, yeah, and then it was like the greatest moment ever. I think you're fully entitled to. I mean, I feel sorry for, is it Taini Edmed?
Yeah.
I always feel a little bit sorry for the kicker, but really, it's a crappy, after a great game of rugby, just to have it as the last moment.
Yeah.
I prefer a 76-minute penalty, so there's still some time for a bit of a reply, a response.
But it's funny that it has that feeling, and I cast my mind back to the Rugby World Cup final last year where Geordie Barrett missed a penalty.
About 76?
Yeah, about 76. And had he got that, it would sort of go down in the history of the kick with Stephen Donald. And that was even earlier. That was, 20 minutes to go? And people still kind of think of that as this last-minute kick that decided the game. But these things happen throughout the game all the time, but it just so happens to be in the 80th. And all of a sudden the pressure ratchets up, and I mean, Kane has no chance.
Yeah, you're right. How about this? Like, and if you're bidding on something on Trade Me and you do put a sneaky bid in with 20 seconds to go, it adds another 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what you do with a kick. So if you get a sneaky little penalty and no one's really quite sure, and even Ben O'Keefe or whoever's looking up at the screen goes, oh, that's probably, like he did with who's the guy, Quacker Smith against France. And he looked straight away and he couldn't go back on it. You're not allowed to go back, reverse penalties just by having a look and going, oh, yeah, there's a hand down there. But Trade Me rules, you get a penalty, that's your bid, the game adds by another 2 minutes, so nobody ever gets a last-minute penalty.
This is an incredible rule, and I honestly think it is a good idea, genuinely, because so many times those little moments, they have such a huge say on the game where, a penalty in the 53rd minute, they're like, oh, who cares, we'll kick it out. But it just becomes this huge thing in the last minute. You can decide a full game based on some sort of 50-50 scrum call. So you go, hey, you get it, even if it's just another minute, so you get one right of apply, it's not game over. I think we've got to implement this and maybe got to email someone at NZR.
I think we go higher than that. I think we go World Rugby.
Yeah.
They might not understand Trade Me, but we can go to NZ Rugby CEO Mark Robinson.
Yeah.
Start with Robbo and say, come on, Robbo, this is it makes sense. Trade Me penalty rule. The other thing is, I've spoken to Ben O'Keefe about that moment, and he was gutted. He realised almost straight away that he got it wrong, and he didn't have. There's nothing in the laws that allows you to reverse that. It's foul play, knock-ons before tries, and stuff like that. 2 phases before, even though they breached that in the final.
Yeah.
So quite often a referee will go, oh.
It's a real shame because it seems like they're trying to do everything they can to take mistakes out of the game. So surely if the ref can just say, hey guys, I called in the moment, and as long as, because in that situation, it's not like it stops someone from scoring a try or anything.
No.
You can go, listen, I called that, I looked up, it was clearly wrong, so whatever it is,
well, maybe you found out straight after, but I'm not sure. There was a moment where he just realised as soon as he saw the footage, he just went, So mightn't have been mid-game, but clearly everyone of his TMOs and anyone watching the screen would have been able to say, Ben, it's wrong.
Yeah, it's tough. They seem they do that because, obviously you want the ref to be in charge of everything and to be the sort of sole arbitrator out there, but they tend to overrule him all the time anyway in a lot of the games. The third umpire, or TMO, I believe they prefer to be called, they'll often say, no, this is what we actually saw. You got it wrong. So they'll undermine him consistently anyway. So might as well just undermine him one more time when he makes a big call. I think you're all over this, McOnie. Now we can, and sorry to kill the flow there, we can talk about the Geordie-less Hurricanes beating the Blues 29-21, and this was a game that everyone was sort of looking forward to and saying that's going to be the real, I guess, symbol of where these two teams are at, how far they can go. And the Blues, well, they couldn't get the job done. The Canes 29.
I had to commentate that game. It was a terrible game of rugby. There was just no flow to it. The big difference is that the Hurricanes, when they play, it actually looks like rugby you recognise. So I go, okay, you're trying to get it out wide, create a little bit of an overlap. Josh Morby, son of a dairy farmer from Te Awamutu, shout out to the hometown, he scores a double, and then all of a sudden they're, looking good. Then the Blues get the ball, and I just couldn't, and I know that they lost 2 players with HIA early on, and it showed that they're split on the bench with only 2 backs. The 6-2 split was a shocker, came back to bite them. But then I was looking at the way they played, and I was thinking, well, if you haven't got Stephen Petafeta-Cheese dancing around and making breaks, which is what he was doing, I couldn't work out what the actual game plan was. So I don't know, maybe it's just because they're betting in something new, but it didn't look very structured. And they've got some major stars. I was counting players who actually played in the Rugby World Cup final for the Blues, and there were a lot. So you had Rico, you had Mark Talia, you had Dalton Papali'i, you had Finlay Christie, possibly one other. Who else? But anyway, at least them.
Even if you just think of that 4 alone or 5 alone,
yeah, big stars.
And then you look at the Highlanders, and there's not maybe Ethan de Groot is the only frontline All Black that their whole side has.
Exactly.
But they still have, a bit going on. And I mean, you talk about that 6-2 split. It seems like an absolute dump in the bed. I mean, obviously we saw it in the World Cup, and it was like, oh, how's it going to go? And it went really well for South Africa. But then when you see it, and if there are injuries or anything happens that you're not expecting, you're really up against it. I think Funaki, the reserve halfback, played the majority of the game out wide, running around, sort of not knowing what in God's green earth he was up to. It really does put you on the back foot very early if anything happens, possibly. And surely that's the idea of having reserves, is that you can go, cool, we've got everything covered here. We've got a plan B. We're going to have this sorted. But obviously they did not, and it all went out the window.
Well, in the World Cup, it was a 7-1 split, I think.
It was 7-1, you're right.
7-1, and so that meant, I think there was no cover for Faf de Klerk. Did they have Willie LaRue on the bench? I don't know, but it was it was strange because you were kind of going, so who plays halfback? And they're going, Cheslin Colby can play, Quacker Smith's put his hand up. Like, there's a lot of sort of, we don't care because this is the way the game's going down. And, of course, it went down exactly
annoyingly went down. I still think, and not to relitigate this, I think we should have just done, a red cardable offence. I mean, we did one anyway, and snapped a leg, just taken someone out and gone, hey, listen, well, now we're 14 players, but you also have to have a prop at first 5, so, it's almost worth it.
Yeah, just to see what do you do now.
Yeah.
Actually, Willie can cover first 5. Anyway, the thing is, with Hurricanes Blues, the Blues have got old man Cotter, Vern Cotter, who's a great guy, tough as teak. He's been working them real hard. He's all about winning the collisions, and he'll be pissed off about those collisions because I thought the Canes bossed it.
Yeah.
And sneaky good type 5. Walker Leawede, really good lock. Yeah. Like, he is someone who can sort of do it all. He's got run meters, he tackles, he's just wins lineouts, he's exceptional. James Tucker went down the motorway and just found a home. He's your classic power lock, and you can just chuck him in anywhere. But I was looking at is it Torsi who's playing in the front row for them? They've got Tyrell Lomax, Almua. There's so much power in that team.
Yeah, there really is.
That I was thinking, okay, they're legit. They at the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the final.
Yeah, they are very good. And, I mean, the man out wide, Kanina Holo, just absolutely bossing it. I think, how many tackle breaks must he have had over the course of the game? In the double figures, easily. In one run, it seemed like
it was six in one run.
Which is outrageous. If you beat one tackle, you're like, great run, fella.
Yeah.
6 people in one run is just
it might have been
incredible. Let's call it 8. Well, I'm going to say a dozen.
Swedish rounding, 10. So if we move on to let's before we go. I mean, is it about time for a break?
Yeah, I think we'll probably
take a break.
Have to take a break, and we'll come back and talk about some good old fashioned upsets very shortly. All right, James McOnie, time to go over the Type 5 this week. 5 talking points from the week of rugby. And the big one, the first one that we're going to look at, the Crusaders, the ever champion, best team in the world, if you ask me, from Canterbury, going over to Fiji and losing 20-10 to the Fijian Drua. And truly a joy to behold for me. What a moment.
It is just one of the best places in rugby. That makes you feel good about the game when you see what's happening in, was it Lautoka?
It was Lautoka, yeah.
And that stadium is just magic. I mean, next time, if the Chiefs are playing, I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
I just want to be amongst that crowd. It just looks... I was lucky enough to be in Apia when the All Blacks played there, and I was in tears during the Samoan anthem. So was Jerome Kano and Kevin Mialamu. And I was just... Because of the emotion, it was just crazy. And the harmonies. Harmonies get me every single time.
Yeah, it really adds a layer.
It does, yeah.
Quite literally.
So it does really add a layer. And so with Lautoka, and also shout out to Italy, 72,000 in the Olympic Stadium in Rome. I just reckon, yeah, those fans were rewarded. They created the atmosphere, the oomph that they needed. The team, their captain said they wanted to defend their turf. They did it expertly, and yeah, very well worthy of their 2010 victory over the Crusaders, again at home.
Yeah, and I think the atmosphere probably does play a big part in it, again, quite literally, because I think just that hot Fijian heat just zapped the Crusaders. Obviously, only 3 games into the season. These men from Canterbury, they're down there in Christchurch. They're running around. It's cold. I was down there on the weekend for the cricket. It's not warm down there at all. So to go to Fiji off the back of that and have to play 80 this early in the season, happened to them last year. Came in under-prepped. You'd almost think that they would have seen this one coming and thought, we're going to target this game. They can't catch us napping again. And they really did. They looked just out of ideas watching that second half. They didn't really know what to do. They were trying their hardest, but were just unable to stop the big, burly Fijians. They get the ball and seem to canter halfway down the field every time. It was just wild to watch. And a true joy for me, if you'll indulge me for a moment. During the cricket, I was doing the ground emceeing and happened to be watching the rugby at the same time. And the exact moment that the final whistle was blown, we did a cross in front of a sold-out Hagley Oval in Christchurch on the big screen, and I was able to say, hey, we've got a little bit of activation happening down here right now, but before we do, some news coming across my desk right now is that the Crusaders have just lost in Fiji, and the embankment made one of the greatest noises I've heard at a live sporting event ever. It was a full 8,000 people going, oh, no! Like, it was absolutely joyful. And it rumbled.
Don't come home then.
It rumbled for about a minute and a half. I started into the next thing I was talking about, but I could just hear everyone talking and groaning, and I could see people getting their phones out to check if I was winding them up or not. It was genuinely one of my favourite moments ever of my very short broadcasting career. It was, I wish that I had taken a second just to soak it in a little more.
Or record it.
Yeah, well, we do have a video of it. Maybe we could chuck it up online. Maybe I'll even play it here. Hold on, we could get one of the people to put this in. Here we go.
The Crusaders have actually just lost in Fiji, so there's some news for you as well. What a time to be alive. And if you had that on your sidebox, sorry about ruining that game for you. But back to the match.
All right, so that's what it sounded like in real time.
What? And you're just the bearer of bad news.
Yeah.
And them realising, I love this team, but right now I hate them.
Yes.
Canterbury fans or Crusaders. I mean, I need to sort of divide that because there are Crusaders fans who aren't Cantabrian, but yeah, there's high expectations. It's definitely people have created a lot of pride in their own, created a personality around the Crusaders being so dominant as well.
Yeah.
Like, we're good at that, therefore I'm, special.
And I think, not to get too serious about it, but I think there's also this real pride tied in. Obviously, the area's been through a lot, especially after the earthquakes. A lot of the team, they invested everything into the Crusaders, and they were like, let's rebuild our community and our feeling and love for this place through the Crusaders rugby team. And I genuinely think that's why a lot of the people down there do hold it in such high regard and are so unable to cope when they lose. And lose they did. And not even just by a little bit, a full 10 points over there to the Drua, who, again, they just look great with ball in hand. I know it's a classic Fijian rugby, but it's almost like they were just out of ideas, had no way to stop them.
The cool thing about the Drua is, they can do the razzle, and I love the try that Ravutamanda, the winger, just, the pass out to him was outrageous, from the base of the ruck, and then he just sort of had no space to work in, and I love it when they do that. But then I was looking at it, and they're expert at the pick and go. Yeah. All the stuff that that I always look at and just go, how can that be done better? And I feel like Fijian teams do that better too, because there's a speed to it, a crispness to the pick and go. Because quite often you watch a pick and go and you go, okay, it's 2 minutes of drudgery,
totally,
and they're almost winding down the clock against themselves.
Well,
whereas the Fijian teams just go, no, this is pick and go, and you better stop us right now because the next guy, or perhaps the next guy is going to score.
Yeah, and it is the thing, you see it with other teams who pick and go. They'll get set up, they'll make sure there's two guys on their butt, they'll basically look up and eyeball the exact person they're going to run into, and then they put their lines up as well, and it's just slow, and there's no possible way they're going to breach the advantage line. It's like they already know it before they run up there. But that Drua team, they're picking it up constantly with one hand, and it's with one hand. You don't need to pluralise hands when you say one hand.
No, you don't.
You know what I'm trying to say there?
Yeah.
There's many people using one hand. That's the way to say it. But they'll just pick up with one hand, but it's not flashy stuff. I know you get coached that really young never have the ball in one hand, but I think in that situation, should be encouraged. Just grab the ball as you're running past almost. They just hit the ruck, pick it up one-handed, smash into the next guy, and the next guy will do the same thing and the same thing, and it just creates so much space and pulls so many people under the tackle, and it makes me, quite frankly, very aroused when I'm watching it. It's just good stuff.
The Drua, the Crusaders now, how do you think their character arc, or the movie of the Crusaders season is going to play out? Will they stay and just have this struggling season, and then Rob Penny is pretty much run out of town, pitchforks and those tiki torches from Bunnings and stuff? Like, I'm trying to work out what the equivalent
sort of like
is.
Like
a tar and feathering,
a racist rally in the southern part of the United States, those tiki torches.
Yeah, and so like just, like any classic old school, like, get out of town, go on, get.
Yeah.
Or will it be an incredible comeback? I feel like there's room in the story for a comeback where they say, do you know what? Dog Roll gets them together and says, everyone around at my place, nude, we're doing the Dog Roll barbecue, okay?
Yeah.
And so he's in there in his Dog Roll apron, and he's cooking a barbecue, and he goes, I know Razor's gone, but we're just going to have to move on from this. This is our team now, okay? You got to forget Razor. And yeah, I'll be seeing him soon because I'm going to be in the All Blacks. I'm a nailed down selection. But for you guys, you've got so much to prove now. Fucking get out there and play some goddamn rugby that we are still Crusaders. This is the team that has dominated for so long. Mm-hmm. And you can't tell me, looking into each other's eyes, that you haven't got that in you. Because if you haven't, then leave the barbecue now. Take your clothes. They're at the door, and piss off. But if you're with me, we're staying in this nude barbecue, and we're going to fucking sort this shit out because we are the Crusaders. That's what I think.
You're getting me worked up here right now. I'm about to run through a wall. That's very inspiring stuff.
Yeah, we beat the Chiefs on their turf. Razor did a breakdance. I don't want to talk about him because he's gone, but we broke dance. Well, actually, Richie did the worm as well. Yeah. He's gone too. We've got to live without these people, carry on. So I think that the movie is the Crusaders make the finals, maybe, definitely the playoffs.
Yeah, well, they're playing the Hurricanes this week, and I feel like...
Oh, shit, maybe not. Cancel that.
I feel like that is the time to turn it around. And I wonder, just to go back to your point of Dog Roll wearing a apron at a nude barbecue, sort of regular people, when they wear an apron, often it'll have the body of a muscular man on the front of the apron, sort of a comedy apron, have abs, sort of the cummies there as well. Do you think that if Dog Roll was to wear the same apron, obviously he's massively in shape, he looks like the novelty apron anyway, would he wear an apron with a picture of sort of an out-of-shape person on the front? Well,
I know what his apron's got on the front. He sent me a photo of it once, and it's of Dog Rolls.
It's of Dog Rolls?
Someone got him an apron with a whole lot of Dog Rolls on the front.
Oh, that's great stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if we can put that out there, but yeah, I've got a photo of the Dog Roll apron. And, I mean, he needs to. If he's cooking the barbecue, I don't expect him to stand there with his dog roll out nude and just like, he's allowed to have the apron. But the rest of the guys in the team, they're all nude.
Yeah, cooking on a barbecue nude is very dangerous as well, because you'll be turning the sausages and then you'll accidentally turn yourself onto the barbecue. And, you know, that's wrought with danger as well. So probably leave that there, I reckon.
You get it in your tongs and suddenly, things can go wrong when they're in the tongs.
Well, that's only one of the Type 5 got through so far. We'll whip through the rest. And this is what you sort of mentioned earlier as well. Do you think the Canes can go all the way? They beat the Blues 29-21. Are they the real deal? They've got the Crusaders this week. Do you think it is on the cards this year for Hurricanes to have a big year?
Yes. I think Geordie Barrett coming back, maybe a little sneaky Umaga Jensen floating around. I think they've got a really good mix. I'm happy with Cameron at first five. It's probably the first time I've seen him play a few games in a row. I thought Aidan Morgan was going to be their guy, or even Ruben Love moving in. But Ruben Love looks good at the back. Yeah. It's just a good, well-balanced team. The X factor comes from their forwards, I think. I know Kenny Naholo had that incredible run, but I just think, Lakai, Almua, Numia even off the bench. You can't think about all that sort of how good their backs are going to be all the time, because there's just so many forwards who are great runners, ball runners.
Yeah, I mean, they beat the Blues without Duplessis Karifi as well. No Geordie, no Karifi, and these are two of the players who have sort of been really leading them the whole way through. So when they get those fellas back as well, it's game on. It really is. Yeah. And I like that idea of the X Factor forwards, because they really are. They're not your run-of-the-mill, just smashed up the guts and chill out, go eat a meat pie after the game sort of forwards. They are your running meters right up there, do a bit of everything, sort of superstars. And I think I'm excited for the All Blacks announcement this year. I think there's going to be a lot of new names. I think there's going to be some people who are sticking their hand up, and it's kind of a good time to be an All Blacks fan, I reckon. I reckon they're going to have a bit of a clean out. Obviously, the coaching staff is all gone as well. There's going to be some new, exciting names, and I think some of those guys will be right in there.
Yeah, that's right. So, Canes, we like the Canes. They're looking good. Next point in the Type 5, did the Chiefs suck, or are the Reds good?
And this is a very nice one for us to talk about, because I saw your face even when you went to read that out. Nearly wept there, saying that the Chiefs sucked, losing to the Reds. I mean, who would have thought it? I certainly didn't know. Did anyone pick that at all? I wonder on any of the tipping platforms if anyone chose the Reds to win 25-19. What did you make of it?
The Reds are made of tougher stuff these days, with the cabin boy at halfback and Fraser McCrate Day. Unfortunately, they call him McCrite, but we're calling him McCrate Day, their open side flanker. Another pilferer, a jackal, the ultimate turnover guy. It always feels like somewhere around Australia, when George Smith stepped aside, then suddenly Pocock's around. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then there's a Hooper, and then there's, Liam Wright, and all these guys, and he is always over the ball, and so they'll get sneaky turnovers. They've got enough, how would you call it, like continuity guys who just keep the ball alive. They score pretty cool tries. I do quite like the Reds, and they didn't even use guys who you'd say are their X Factor players like Pataya and stuff, and they've lost the Tong and Thor. So you'd probably say, in post World Cup they might be in what was a bit of a dip, a lull, but no, they are like koalas on their jerseys. They cling on, they give you chlamydia, they give you a hell of a game, and the way they held on right at the death when the Chiefs made a sweeping move about 70 metres and it went from one side of the field to the other. Sean Stevenson just put on the afterburners, put Anton Linnett-Brown into space, and I was like, holy shit, this is going to be one of the great tries. But the Reds defended in such numbers. Normally, if there's that many defenders beaten and that many passes go to hand, it's a try. But shit, they corner flagged and they just went hard out. And I was like, okay, they're a different class now, the Reds. I mean, they did play and gave the Chiefs a really good game in that semi-final last year. So, they're good. They've got Mo Salah coming off the bench as well. But the way they defended that sweeping move at the end, when Anton Linnett-Brown could have dummied and actually gone over, but he gave it to Summer Penny-Free. Now, with the way they defended that, I was going, yeah, I think the Reds are just good. The Chiefs don't suck.
The Chiefs do not suck. Their team is outrageous. Every name you just said then are All Blacks or fringe All Blacks, or their team is absolutely stacked when you see it on paper. And for them to come back empty-handed, or they might get a bonus point, but basically empty-handed is so surprising. I think the Reds have to be good. They have to be good to be able to knock over that Chiefs team.
The Chiefs, this is one other team where I don't quite understand the structure and the game plan yet, and it's because maybe I just need to talk to them and say, what is it that's different from last year, because they were always scoring worldies, tries that you just go, just majestic stuff, and there's definitely I guess, what do you call it, like just early, it's teething stages of
early days.
It's early days. It's fine.
It's early days. The next point, Julian Savea finally taking the top of the mountain on. He is the all-time Super Rugby try-scoring record holder with 61 tries, obviously across the Hurricanes and Moana Pacifica. Getting rid of old Israel Folau out of the top of the record books. And it's just great to see. I saw Artie Savea post about it. I think he said the black bus, and made me feel awkward. But nonetheless, what a player, what a guy, 61 tries. I mean, you got to be good for that, right? Yeah,
it's cool. He's such a different player now than what he was. It's like watching a different, human. You just go, okay, I remember the bus back in the day. Remember bowling over Israel Dag? He just monstered him, didn't he?
He threw him about 15 metres.
And then the total wheels that he had back in the day, but now he's a muscle player, and it was very cool to see. He's overtaken Folau. He's Howlett is on 59.
It's an incredible list. The very top of this try-scoring list.
And you've got TJ Pittanada at 58 with Caleb Ralph, the Joe Roff at 57. Christian Cullen is on 56 with Brian Habana, Sterling Mortlock, and Ma'a Nonu. But what amazes me is that Christian Cullen pretty much did it in 7 seasons.
Yeah, there's a lot of that sort of
tries
thinking.
in 7 seasons.
When you see Julian Savea, 2011 to 2024, that is a huge expanse of time to score those tries. And not taking anything away from him, but then you do also look at Israel Folau, and it's only 6 years. Only 6 years for 60 tries. And a figure that I found very interesting over the weekend is Sevu Reece scored a try in that game against the Fijian Drua for the Crusaders, and that was his 50th try in Super Rugby. And I feel like he has only been around, since 2019, 2018? I will just double check that. 2019?
2019 was when he made the All Blacks, and he was basically went. He was with Waikato for a while.
Yeah.
Couldn't break through, but he led every stat in NPC, and then there was obviously some off-field stuff.
Yeah.
And then Razor went, we can rehabilitate him. We'll take him. And 2019 onwards, that's a lot of tries. So he's at 50. He'll be breaking the record next year if he's here.
Yeah, he certainly will be. That's just incredible stuff. It's 50 tries over 6 seasons. It's electric.
I noticed that too. It was like, oh wow, 50. Okay.
He also, a great bet from G Lane, he put $100 on Sevu Reece to be the first try scorer. I think he won himself maybe $800 back. Not a bad bet, has to be said.
As soon as that happened, I looked at the list and there's no Chiefs on there. I went, so who is it? So I went online, and you might be able to guess the our top try scorer.
Sidovini?
Yes, Sidovini at 42. So then next is Lelia Masanga at 38. And I was thinking, in terms of tries that you put on a highlight reel, Masanga is right up there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there are no duds.
No, silky.
There's like dives that Dallin Waiteni-Zelezniak would be proud of. There's like hip-hop freaking breakdancing at the end.
Yeah, he did love the shoulder pop,
Yeah, he's always popping, locking. And then there were like 60-metre tries that, even though players run 60 metres all the time, he'd do it, there'd be a sidestep, there'd be a shimmy. It wasn't just a straight 60-metre run.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, he was awesome.
There are players like that when you look back and you think, look at this highlight reel. He also moved very well. Like he's a silky guy, kind of that Joe Rokothoko, to bring him up again. he's just hyper coordinated. Nothing looks like an accident. There's no gumbiness about him at all. You know, Ben Smith was a bit of a Gumby. Like, he'd still break tackles, but he'd just sort of do it in an uncoordinated fashion. But he was just beautiful to watch.
Ben Smith is a bit of a Gumby.
Yes.
But the thing is, that's what I remember from this.
I just want to say this.
Yeah,
on the record, I love Ben Smith more than almost any other rugby player in the history of New Zealand rugby.
I know what you're saying. He would pretty much... Well, he was the guy who was the hardest to knock down according to opposition coaches. They'd say the Ben Smith factor is when he runs the ball back, you never get him first time in a tackle. There's always something, or he can get an offload away. Very hard to put down, like a good book.
Yep.
But anyway, that's your Ben Smith thing. I was just thinking, Lome Whaatau, in terms of beautiful gliding runners. I mean, obviously Rupeni is
number one.
Rupeni, the chef's kiss. But Lome Whaatau, oh my God. I saw the game where he pretty much ended Joe Rokothoko's career in New Zealand because he sliced him, diced him 5 or 6 different ways, and I was like, whoa, what is happening here? How the hell is this happening?
Yeah.
Runs like a velociraptor, Lome Whaatau.
Yeah, just sort of back out, arch, clever girl, opening doors.
Clever girl.
And the last point, before we take a quick break for the Type 5 this week, and very wide open point, really. The Six Nations, it's on. It's lighting things up. Some big results. Obviously, Italy finally getting a W over Scotland and Ireland. And am I right in reading this correctly? Irish pundits think Ireland are as good as the 2015 All Blacks.
Yeah, there was something doing the rounds during the week saying how good is this Irish side, and they were sort of in denial about the World Cup.
Yeah.
And, I mean, look, we've been there. I get it, Irish fans, because we've had World Cups in both, cricket and rugby where we've gone, no, we still feel like we deserve better. And I know that's the case, but they chose a week to do it where they went, this Ireland team is as good as Richie McCaw's 2015 All Blacks. And I can't remember who the pundit who said it was, but I guess they were probably trying to get a reaction.
Yeah, they were trying to get some international headlines, what they were doing, and they got the headlines. The headline was, we lost.
That's right.
We lost to England.
They lost, and then that week when they say it, straight after, hot on the heels of their hot take, they got beaten at Twickers.
Well, it annoys me so much because at the start of this campaign, the Six Nations, there was the same headline saying when France and Ireland played, they were saying this is the Rugby World Cup final the world deserved. And I was furious at that. I was like, no, it's not at all. This is just, you guys couldn't even make it past the quarterfinals. This wasn't even the semi-final the world deserved. They seem to, I don't know where this arrogance has come from. This idea they're like, we are the best team ever, but the results do not mirror that. But they just seem to really rate themselves, these Irish pundits. I know it's not the team, but still it annoys me.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think it was the Irish Sports Awards. The coach of the year was Andy Farrell, and I think the Ireland rugby team might have been team of the year as well. So they're all in denial, really.
Yeah, I mean, that is tough.
That is tough because I get it. They were the number 1 ranked team in the world. They would have been worthy winners of the World Cup. I wouldn't have had any quibbles or qualms with that result. But then at the World Cup, I actually thought France was the best team there. So they should be just as pissed off.
Yeah, I thought
whereas they sort of seem to be moving on with life.
Yeah, they're carrying on. I certainly think New Zealand, I still think it's the one that got away. It would have been the worst campaign to win a World Cup, but who cares? You get the World Cup. If the All Blacks had managed to score, just 2 more points in that final, I think we would have taken that one, snuck that one home. The other ones were obviously deserved winners, but that one would have been, we'll just take that one as well. We'll put that one in the cupboard and we'll keep quiet about it.
Exactly. I mean, we had our chances. The thing is, Ireland, I know that they probably felt that somewhere in those 37 phases or whatever it is, it's mythically sort of grown, isn't it?
Yeah.
That there was a penalty coming their way. But, hey, under the trade me rule, we would have had two more minutes.
We would have.
Yeah.
And also, when the All Blacks lose at a quarterfinal, they're barely welcome in the country for about 6 months afterwards. They're written up in all the papers. It's basically open season on All Blacks if they lose in a quarterfinal. Ireland is getting Team of the Year. Can you imagine if New Zealand lost that game to France at Cardiff and then they came back and won Sports Team of the Year? There would have been a riot on Queen Street. It would have been outrageous.
Yeah.
It's hard to fathom.
It's imagine how much money Fozzie would have made if he had won that World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking engagements, just next job, huge money. Next job, just crazy, and especially being jilted by New Zealand rugby as a World Cup winner.
Yeah.
He would just be considered this, like, we're getting someone who they didn't realise was actually just a shining gem. And so Fozzie, I mean, he's done pretty well out of life. He's got a nice place.
Fine. I think Fozzie will be fine.
He'll be fine. But the amount of money, though,
Yep.
another level.
And very briefly as well, Italy, big W.
Yes.
As you mentioned earlier, 72,000 fans just going absolutely apeshit. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, their coach is a guy called Gonzalo Quesada, who used to play number 10 for the Pumas. He was Stade Francais coach. He's mates with Razor. There's kind of this clique, this group of like really cool sort of rat pack coaches, you know? It's like Razor's the breakdancer guy and Gonzalo Quesada's the guy who likes nice food and wine. And, you know, they're just a modern sort of group of coaches. They're not the grizzled old guys who are just swearing their head off all the time. And he has gone in there and made such a difference. They should have won that game last week against France, was it?
I mean, that would be
There was
books.
a kick at the end anyway that Garbisi, it fell off the tee. There was drama. So anyway, they should have had 2 wins already this Six Nations, which was unheard of for them. They're always basically getting smashed. So Gonzalo Quesada can take them to the promised land. This is the difference. But I reckon I look at players like they've got Michael Liner's son playing on the wing. He was born there, so it's all good. It's legit. More legit than the other players who have played for Italy. But back in the day, remember the guys who'd pop up playing for Italy and they were Kiwis and Aussies and you never really heard of them?
I mean, Monty Ioane is the one that sort of springs to mind of, it's not like he's
a bit more heard of. But but there were guys who were really unknowns. Whereas now I'm thinking, Italy, if you get the knowns, if you get a Bundy Arki or a James Lowe, that's why I'm big on Josh Morby going to Italy. He looks a little bit Italian.
Yeah.
And I think you go there, you photograph him with some pasta and a bit of pizza, and it's like, hey, I'm Italian, and get him into international rugby somehow.
Yeah.
Because normally it's like you're trying to work out, do I qualify for one of the British teams or Ireland, right? And that's the normal sort of route. Whereas I'm like, nah, go play for Italy.
Yeah,
there's something special going on there.
And also, the post-match feeds must be just out of this world. Imagine the pasta and pizza they're rolling in there. It'd be like a Pizza Hut all you can eat, the Works deal in the 90s. Just an absolute smorgasbord. It's enough for me to make me think maybe I'll go try.
And even the lasagna, you could take it home. Like next day lasagna is epic. So you'd be saying, can I just put this in a doggy bag?
Yeah.
And he goes, what do you mean a doggy bag? And you, no, it's just a term I don't mean for my dog, although you could.
Yeah, there's
nothing stopping you. But next day lasagna is really amazing.
Do you think the first person to take a doggy bag into a restaurant, it was literally their doggy bag? Like they had a bag to pick up the shit of their dog, and they thought, hey, you know what? I'm going to put my dinner in this. Just an idea.
Is that what you're thinking?
Just that's where my mind's going.
You think it could be? Yeah. I mean, what is that?
Or is it to feed your dog?
I think it's to feed.
Oh, it's not the shit bag. Okay.
But
okay.
if it is one of the green shit bags, how much can you fit in that? Like, you'd be wanting to cram some stuff in there.
I mean, I've crammed some stuff in one of those shit bags before. It can take a full loaf from a dog.
Right.
So,
that sort of loaf.
You get a not a baguette or a.
You're not. Could you get some lasagna in there?
You get a lasagna in there. Yeah, they are
Okay.
very small though. Very, very small.
Okay.
Horrible little bags as well. Can I just say?
Oh,
Hey,
by the way, have I talked about the dog shitting on our street? I have, eh?
No, I
In
don't believe
Te
so.
Awatere Peninsula.
No.
So yeah, I'm. There's a dog and it's probably an owner who's doing this that shits right outside my house on the footpath, and like there's kids going to school. There's bloody young mums with prams. There's all sorts, and there's just massive dog turds.
Oh, despicable.
And it's bad behaviour. And I think what happened is that during COVID, everyone wanted a freaking dog.
Yep.
So they went and got a dog, and then now they're annoyed that they have to pick up the dog shit. They've sort of gone, okay, I'm done now. Yeah. And you can't say that. Like, a dog is for life. Dog shit is for life.
Well, dog shit's
Pick
for about
up-
3 weeks if you leave it on the ground.
Oh, yeah, it's disgusting. But In the hot weather, it's fine because you can, after a day, you can shovel it. But at the moment, like shoveling fresh dog shit in a drizzly conditions, I'm worried about the state of the dog shit now that the weather's turned. It was fine when it dried out. So if you live in Te Aratū Peninsula and you let your dog shit all over the place, I'm coming for you.
Well, we are absolutely hemorrhaging listeners as people imagine this dog shit. So we'll let them take a break and we'll come back with this week's games in just a moment. And let's take a look at week 4 of Super Rugby, and a big old week kicking off on Friday. James McOnie, Crusaders, Hurricanes. You and I are commentating for the ACC. You can listen to that on iHeartRadio or Sky Sport Channel 9. Who are you picking for that one?
Which one's that?
Crusaders, Hurricanes. It's in Christchurch.
It's too close to call. I'll go Crusaders bounce back.
Okay, you're going to go Crusaders. Just for that reason, I'll go the Hurricanes. And the next games are going to involve this week's TAB Game Day Good Punt. We've got a $100 bonus bet, and we're going to start this off Highlanders versus the Brumbies, going for the Highlanders, and I hope that that's how you feel as well.
Yes.
Go the Highlanders, and we'll also double that up with the Chiefs versus the Fijian Drua. This is in Hamilton on Saturday night.
So,
and
bit of Chiefs mana.
Chiefs mana, and we'll finish the three-way here. It's a Super Saturday. It really is outrageous. The Blues, the Waratahs. It's in Sydney, but I'm picking the Blues as well.
Yes, I think the Blues can get something done over there. Yep.
So we'll go for a fatal three-way. The Landers, the Chiefs, and the Blues, all to win, paying $2.94, which I think is fairly good eating. I mean, you got to get behind that one, and that'll actually kick us over the $1,000 amount for the group for the TAB Game Day Good Punt.
Cool.
And we'll be giving that one away, and you should also head to the TAB website, tab.co.nz, or download the TAB app to check out all the rugby union promos and boosted odds market. But it is a Super Saturday. You've got the Force, Minor Pacifica at midday, 4:35, the Highlanders, the Brumbies, 7:30 Chiefs, Fijian Drua, and then 9:30 Waratahs Blues. Are you going to leave the house?
Well, that midday game is actually midnight.
Oh!
So Friday is going off.
Always confuses me, this 12 a.m. because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I've had enough of this AM, PM bullshit.
Give
when
it something else, yeah.
To midday, midnight, because it's 1 a.m. is 1 in the morning. So 12 a.m. should be...
00.
It's
0.
It's horseshit.
Just say 0 o'clock.
1 p.m. Yeah,
Or just say midnight.
It's too confusing. I never know. I set my alarm for it one time for midday, and I had to Google it for about 15 minutes to find out what I was supposed to be setting it to.
I think if you just said it's from now on at 0 o'clock, I think people will probably get on board.
0 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't go 12 then 1.
Yeah.
What are we resetting for? It should be anyway.
So we go back to 0. So anyway, that's Force versus Moana. I think I've got to be here for the Chiefs versus Fijian Drua, but this is on Channel 59, the ACC commentary. Myself and G-Lane will be doing the Chiefs mana, but it's myself and you, Tony Lyall, doing the main call, I believe, for the Crusaders v Hurricanes.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. It'll be good to see the Crusaders, how they do bounce back down there in that awful stadium they have in Christchurch. I'd say the fans will be back. They'll be looking for a bounce back win. And I'm excited for it. I really am. Some Friday night football. And I know I'd pick the Canes to win, but it's anyone's game, I think.
It is. The Crusaders totally need to pull finger. That at least, like I was looking at the weekend, because the league started off with a bit of a bang. The Wars didn't quite deliver, but I'm sure they were thinking, oh, this is good, the great game, blah, blah, blah. And I was looking at going, actually, I think Super Rugby, I was really invested in some of those I love both sports, both codes, and happily watch a great ding-dong battle in either. But Super Rugby has been quite good, and this weekend will be the proof will be in the pudding of Crusaders versus Canes. Doesn't get much better with a desperate team and a team in great form. And then even like Highlanders and Brumbies.
Yeah, it's a good game.
It is quite good, that one. I think that's where your Highlanders have shown actually a bit of class early doors. So that's the ultimate test, eh? They're generally the toughest Aussies.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, pretty consistently over the years. I think the one thing, speaking about NRL, that the Super Rugby could do it better is make the atmosphere in the ground a bit more of an event. I mean, I've seen the footage coming out of the halftime show from little old Mount Smart Stadium. They've got lights. They're blowing shit up. It's carnage out there. There's drones flying around. They're shooting off rockets. They're making it something you want to go to. And I think maybe the Super Rugby teams could look at that and go, hey, should we maybe get a bit of this on? Because there's been some fairly empty-looking stadiums.
I love a relay. What about the mascot race?
Mascot
race in the Highlanders' first or second game.
Epic.
I devoted do a rugby wrap every Monday of Super Rugby for Crow Goes Wild. I devoted a full 20 or 30 seconds to the mascot race.
And this should be televised, the mascot race.
Exactly.
It should be commentated as well. They should be shooting rockets over them. They should be blowing stuff up. There should be maybe landmines on the field. I think they just need to remember that the product is the whole time you're at the ground, not just the time when the teams are playing. And I know they do things.
Yes, I do. Return of the Mac.
They do things, but they just should maybe
once again
take a leaf.
Watch my flow
Out of the pages and of the wars and
There
return
I
of the Mac.
go.
Hey, on that note,
Okay, sorry.
no, that's all right. I love a bit of what's his name, Mark Morrison.
Yeah.
Is that the NZR head? Mark Robinson.
Once again.
We will leave it there, and we'll be back next week, and hopefully we'll be celebrating a big Highlanders win, and for you, McOnie, a big Chiefs win. Make sure you tune in this weekend to those two games the AC will be covering. Friday night, James McOnie and I, the Crusaders, the Canes, and then Saturday, G-Lane, James McOnie, the Chiefs. And we will see you next week for more Champagne Rugby.
Watch my flow.